In the quaint town of Duralia, surrounded by hills that wore veils of mist and rivers that sang to the wind, lived a boy named Arjun. He was a quiet soul, the kind of person who noticed the shape of clouds and the way sunlight danced on water. His world was made of colors and canvas, brushes and silence. Arjun lived with his widowed mother in a small house with ivy crawling up the brick walls. Every morning, he'd paint with the early light slipping through his window, trying to capture emotions he could never quite say aloud. In that same town lived Meera, wild-hearted, fierce-eyed, and as unpredictable as a summer storm. She was the kind of girl who wore mismatched socks and danced in the middle of the street if a song moved her. Her laughter turned heads, and her presence felt like a festival, sudden, warm, and unforgettable. Meera was studying literature at the town university and could often be found reading under trees, lost in stories where magic met reality. They met not in a dramatic way, but by fate's quiet design. It was a gray morning when Arjun stepped into the little bookstore on the corner, his favorite place, a world within walls. As he reached for a worn copy of The Little Prince, a soft hand touched his at the same time. He looked up to find Meera, her eyes wide, curious, and lit with surprise. "You like this book?" she asked, a half-smile playing on her lips. "I love it," he replied, his voice a little unsure. "It's gentle." She nodded. "Gentle. I like that." They ended up sharing a cup of coffee that day at the bookstore cafe, seated between shelves that smelled of ink and time. They talked about books, art, poetry, and dreams. It was never loud or forced. It was two people discovering echoes of themselves in someone else. Over the next few weeks, they met often, sometimes by chance, sometimes by choice. Arjun began to sketch Meera in his notebook, not her face always, but the things she made him feel. The warmth of her laughter, the wildness of her dreams, the comfort of her silence. Meera, on the other hand, started collecting his words, phrases he dropped without knowing, like when he said, "The sky looks lonely today," or "Your voice sounds like dusk." She wrote them in the back of her notebook, under the heading, "Things he doesn't know he gives me." They weren't dating in the way most people understood it. There were no labels, no declarations. But their love was growing, in secret smiles, in shared umbrellas, in songs they both hummed while walking, even in comfortable silences. It was the kind of love that built itself quietly, like snow falling in the middle of the night. One evening, the rain began without warning. They were walking near the edge of the forest, talking about childhood memories, when the sky turned silver and the first drops fell. They laughed and ran under the nearest shelter, a crumbling stone balcony of an old, abandoned house. Meera was drenched, her hair dripping and her clothes clinging to her like second skin. She shivered slightly, still smiling, eyes bright from the storm. Arjun couldn't look away. "I've never seen anything more beautiful," he said, almost like it escaped him. Meera met his eyes, dark, intense, and filled with something unspeakable. Her smile faded into something softer. "Can I kiss you?" Arjun asked, his voice barely above the rain's rhythm. She stepped closer, nodding, and then their lips met, tender, hesitant, but full of everything they had never said. The kiss didn't need to be perfect. It just needed to be theirs. From that moment, everything changed. Or maybe everything finally made sense. Their days became poems, slow mornings making breakfast together, scribbling dreams on napkins, sneaking kisses in library corners, painting murals on each other's skin. They had fights too, passionate, fiery, followed by apologies wrapped in hugs and whispered promises. One night, under a blanket of stars, Meera asked, "What if we get lost? What if life pulls us apart?" Arjun reached for her hand, looked at her the way only he could, and said, "Then I'll draw my way back to you." And he meant it. Years passed. They finished college, faced family expectations, struggled with careers. Arjun became an art teacher at a local school, and Meera published her first book of poetry, titled Whispers Under the Rain. In the dedication, she wrote, "For the boy who made silence a language and love a home." One day, On the anniversary of their first kiss, Arjun took her back to that same broken balcony. The town had changed, the house was older, and the rain, right on cue, began again. He pulled out a small box and opened it to reveal a ring, simple and handmade, the inside etched with her favorite line. "Your voice sounds like dusk,"
she cried.
He held her, and once again, as the rain painted the world around them, they kissed, this time, with a promise that no matter how many years passed, they'd always return to the beginning.